Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our first Raise Papers webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about a really terrific topic and one that is very pertinent to any founder who is thinking about doing a capital raise or is currently doing a capital raise. At the end of the day, the only way in which you actually get to raise capital from folks is if you sell them a story that excites them and interests them and brings them into the fold as to why they should hand over their dollars and give you an opportunity to build the business that you're building. And that's where Alex Portera and his team at Rallion come into play. I'm really excited to have this conversation and for you to learn more about how you can leverage folks like Alex and his firm to be able to tell your story better and to help you really be successful in your crowdfunding campaign. So with that, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Chris, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be having this conversation.
No, me too. So first off, can you tell folks who don't know you who you are and what your firm is?
Absolutely. So my name is Alex Portera. I am the CEO and co-founder of Rallion Media. So we're a video production company that specializes in helping startups raise capital, primarily through equity crowdfunding, Reg CF, Reg A+. And so over the past few years, we've helped companies raise over $170 million through those raise types. And we work very closely with most of the major platforms where companies are raising capital, like a Start Engine and a WeFunder. And so we work with startup CEOs and their teams to help create and craft compelling stories and pitch videos to help raise capital. Those are the videos that whenever you go onto a Start Engine page and you at the very top, you see a video, you click play and you start seeing the team pitch their story. That's what we make.
Awesome. So for founders who are, thinking about doing a crowdfunding raise or currently doing crowdfunding raise, I'm curious to hear from you, when is the right time to engage a firm like yourself?
Once you've committed to actually doing a crowdfunding raise would be the right time to talk to us. If you're still deciding on it, we're happy to help you decide if it's right for you. But once you're doing a raise, you probably need a video, and at that point, it's a great moment to connect with us because we can help kind of guide you through that process of developing your story, developing your pitch, and we want to have a little bit of time. A lot of raises, it's like, we need capital now, we need to get this done as quickly as possible, and we can move quick. We've done projects in as quick as 2 weeks from scripting, production, and post, but
Oh, wow.
we want to, if we can, we want to take the time to get your story right, so that we're not cutting corners to put out that pitch video. So, yeah.
I know a lot of founders, they could be intimidated by the idea of having to create a video. I will tell you, in our experience, what the data suggests is that not having a video is definitely a pretty big deterrent for folks. In today's kind of media landscape, having a video is kind of like baseline expectation from investors, and we see it all the time. I would say well over 90%, maybe like 95% of companies now come out with a video on their offering page. The problem is when you come out with a video on your offering page and you don't do it well. In some ways, I would almost argue that that's worse. Let's talk about, Alex, some of the key things that you look for in a compelling video to really kind of get people excited about your investment opportunity.
There's a lot of moving pieces in a video to make it really compelling. What I've learned over time is that there's not one way to do it. Each company, you want to lean on the strengths of each individual company and make a video that best represents that company kind of in their highest form. I mean, that's what the type of storytelling we're trying to do is, right? Is find what makes this company exciting and interesting and unique and present that piece of it so that they're not blending in with every other company. In terms of what are the specific things we look for? I mean, it's almost easier to talk about what mistakes companies make and see it in that way, and then it's make sure that we don't make those. And so one thing that I see all the time, I was looking at actually a company that launched yesterday on WeFunder, and it's a CPG company with a product that I actually I buy, and it's a really great video, but not necessarily for crowdfunding because they tell the story of the company without giving out any of the investment pitch. So we don't really learn anything about why this is a great investment opportunity, just like why it's a really great product. And so when we're making a video for a fundraise, we want to make sure that we are talking about what investors are looking for. So we're talking about numbers, whatever it may be, whatever stage you're at. If we can talk about the market size, if we can talk about revenue, if we can talk about growth, if we can talk about the team and your backgrounds, these are all things that are standard in a pitch. You may not have all of them. If you're really early stage, you might not have revenue. Okay, we leave that out. But maybe we talk about all the other things that make you unique, like the team, like the proprietariness of the product, whatever it is. That's one thing. Number two is making the opportunity seem big. When people are looking for investment opportunities, you need to present it in a way where people see the potential that you see. And most people won't right off the bat, unless it's AI. Basically, you really need to sell them on the market opportunity. And so thinking deeply about how can I explain the potential here in a way that investors are going to instantly get it and say, oh yeah, this could be really big. You're right, I do see it. Obviously, we don't know. But if this does work the way that you're saying it will, I could see this really taking off. That's a really big one as well. And then there's a bunch of other pieces throughout the video that we try and do, which we have what we call our 5 sweeps, where we try and look through all the different kind of rhetorical or argumentation mistakes that companies might make. For example, we do something called our skeptic squashing sweep, where we look through our entire story that we're telling. We say, at any point in this, do we expect an investor to be skeptical about what we are saying? And if we are, how do we address that? Because we want to address skepticism head on. Because if we make investors feel like, they said that, I don't really believe them, or they're hiding something, they're gone, right? We don't want to hide things. We want to address objections right away. We also do what we call our so what sweep, where if we ever make a point, the reason we're making that point is very obvious. So we never just say we'll make a stat and then we'll explain why that's important. We try and do the thinking for the investors instead of trying to make the investors make connections about why something's a big deal on their own. So those are just a few of the things that we do amongst many others.
Well, one of the things I want to hit on, so one of the reasons I brought on Alex is because I do genuinely believe and feel very strongly that his firm is probably one of the best in the entire industry at creating these videos. I've met all sorts of providers that play in this space, and these guys make some really, really great videos, really engaging, exciting, interesting videos. So just with that, to make it real for folks, is there a few sample companies they could kind of go and check out right now with live offerings?
Oh, for sure. So the company that's live right now that we've worked with that has raised the most money is Wiggle, which is on Start Engine. So they're up at about over $7 million. They've been raising for a while, and actually their video is totally unique in the world of crowdfunding. We call it brand raising, where it's actually instead of the CEO giving the pitch, we actually hired actors to bring the story of the company to life, and they're giving the pitch while also kind of entertaining you. So totally unique, and one of my favorite videos that we've done. We have a bunch of others that are up right now as well. If you go on WeFunder, a really cool company called Humanity, which is a longevity app, they've raised over $2 million. Another company on WeFunder is called Clickin, which is an advertising company, an advertising tech company. More of a straightforward pitch. That's a very standard one that I think you'll see that and you'll kind of understand it. On Start Engine, Artly Coffee is a really exciting one, a robotic barista company. Those are a few of the ones that are live right now.
One of the next questions that I often get from folks is well, I don't know where Alex's firm is based, but I'm based in X, Y, or Z location, wherever it may be. So how does actual taping work? What does that look like?
So we're able to work with startups that are anywhere in the country and in the world. We shot something in the US Virgin Islands 2 weeks ago. We filmed in Barcelona. But what we do is we script, our team is remote during the scripting process. And then what we do is we hire a local filmmaker, wherever you are, to be on set with you, on set being your office space, your factory, whatever's going to best represent the company, but they're there with you. And our team manages that remotely so that you're not paying for a producer or a director to fly around the country to be on set with you. So we think, we think that model works really well for companies who are also trying to move quickly and not spend an insane amount of money on a video. We're not the cheapest in the world, but this is how we keep our costs down.
One of the things that you hit on earlier was, are you raising any sort of skepticism? And I will tell you, sometimes when folks try and go and do their own version of a video, right, without any professional editing or anything, it raises a lot of skepticism because you're talking about this big grand idea and how amazing it is, and yet you're a person kind of sitting at your desk with your personal camera, and it looks really poor, and you're going they're talking a big game, but they don't seem to actually have anything here. So production value really does matter. And I'm telling you this as someone who's looked at 7,000 plus raises over the past 6 years. It really does matter how you're presenting yourself to the world. And I would imagine with these assets, you also have the ability to kind of take pieces of the videos and use them in some of your marketing schemas and things like that as well, right, Alex?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that Johnny at WeFunder has talked about how when you're doing a fundraise, there's not one thing that's going to like win you the investment typically. It's a series of yes, no decisions. And if your video looks like you're filming it on your phone by yourself, like in your bedroom, that's an extreme example, but like that's a no for investors, right? And it's like they're looking for reasons to bounce. Investors are looking for reasons to say this isn't going to work and I'm not going to spend my money. And so you have to give them the reasons to stay and to say yes. And so that's where I think like really producing it in a professional way, you put your best foot forward. And so what we do when we create these videos is we create the pitch video, which is we aim for 2 to 3 minutes. We don't want to go too long and go too in depth and confuse investors and share too much information that they're not going to remember. But then we also produce a number of other assets. We produce 3 typically 15 to 30 second assets that you can use on your organic social. You can use it for paid social. And we often produce other assets as well for you to for CEOs to share on their LinkedIn and whatever it is to just continue telling the story. Because if we're going out and doing a full day of production, let's maximize the amount of footage we get so that you get the most value from that day.
Well, it's funny you say that because there have been times when I've had to watch these videos and they're 7-8 minutes long and they lose you at, minute 2. Just think about your own attention span. I know everyone thinks, the company they founded is their baby and it's the most important thing in the world. And it might be to you, but to everyone else, it's not. And they just need to understand, what do you do? Why does this matter to me? Can I make money off of this? So on and so forth. So remember, distilling down really matters. And I think it's very important to have someone kind of walking you through that script process to make sure you do distill down to what truly matters. What are some of the other things you see founders kind of make a mistake of doing when they're kind of storyboarding their idea and even creating their offering page that you think can lose people if they're not careful?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to like take it high level, and then I'll mention some of the specifics. Like, what do you want in a video? It's like, what is the problem? What is your solution? Why is this going to be big? Why does this need to exist now? And why you? These are like the core questions, I think, of a pitch that you need. If you answer those questions and you answer them well, you're well on your way to getting an investment. Now, some of the mistakes that companies make, I think, as I mentioned before, number one, focusing too much on the product and not on the company and the investment opportunity. This is an investment pitch, so focusing on that. I think number two is getting really deep on the specifics of the product, getting really deep on technical knowledge, technical jargon. I think this is especially challenging in anything in the medical space, medical devices, biotech, medicine. It's like you want to go deep, you want people to understand the science, but most investors are not going to be experts. And so you need to keep it at a level where you're not losing what makes it special, you're not losing the nuance, but you're also not confusing people because they don't have that base layer knowledge that you do. Another one is there are times where you get to the end of a video and you don't actually know what a company does. It seems so obvious, but that does happen sometimes. And so making sure you are crystal clear. We look for, in every video we make, one sentence in the video, whether it's the first line or at least within the first 30 seconds, that says exactly what the company does. So if people forget everything else that you said, at least they remember that one sentence. And if they go off and they're thinking about it, they'll say, what does that company do? Oh yeah, there's a company raising right now that's done phenomenally well, Clockwork. And they say what they do in the first line. And then one last thing is not making it clear that this is a big problem worth solving. I could love your product. And what's great about a community round is you can get your community to invest. And some people will just invest purely because they love you. But if you rely just on those people who love you, the chances of you having a really significant raise are much lower. And so making sure that people understand why this is a problem, even if they don't necessarily have that problem themselves.
I'm curious, do you see, if I kind of look at, there's 2 types of companies that are trying to raise, and there's definitely more nuance in this, but you have your very early days, kind of an idea on a piece of paper, pre-revenue, oftentimes pre-traction founder who's kind of idea on a piece of paper trying to launch their business. Then you kind of have this more established person who has a good amount of traction. Maybe they have millions in revenue. And those are 2 very different pitches from my perspective. I'm curious if you see any major differences in how companies present themselves when hey, I'm an idea on a piece of paper versus, hey, I'm an established player with 5, 10, $20 million in revenue?
The difference largely is if you have the numbers, we show the numbers, right? We talk about the numbers. We just worked with a company that had $92 million in revenue last year, I believe, like unaudited. And so it's like, yeah, you better believe that we led with that number. And so when you have traction, investors are going to look for that, right? So with a later stage company, if you have been in market for a while, people are going to be looking for numbers. And if you're not showing them, that's where that skepticism comes in, right? If it's like, oh, you've been in market for 15 years, but we're not sharing any revenue, we're not sharing any growth. And business has been hard for the past few years. Like, I get that. Like, last year was not an easy year for a lot of companies. We still need to present something. Early stage, it's really just about like what credibility markers do you have, and that's what we're going to present. So maybe it's the team, maybe it's not. Like, maybe it's a young founder doing something brand new. Okay, maybe they have a great degree, we'll present that. Maybe they have advisors. Maybe they have like a unique experience. Maybe it's just their personal story about why they're doing this. And so we look for different credibility markers when it's a really early stage versus later stage where there's things that are kind of expected.
So, you got your video at the top, and I think there's a reason why it's often at the top, because again, that's going to be that first engagement point for people to really learn about who you are, what you're doing. Then you go down and you're in the offering page. Do you help folks write up their offering pages? And if so, let's talk about some best practices there as well.
We do help companies build their investment page. That's something that's newer for us. And so sometimes companies ask us to do both. Sometimes we just do the video. For the page itself, I mean, you have to think about it. There's a few things that we look for. Number one, it can be as long as you want it to be, and you can make it long. You think about it like a blog post. You need to make it readable, right? If it's just a ton of text, no one's going to read it. And so we think about the formatting quite significantly, actually. Beyond just the story, it's like, okay, headlines, subheadlines, nice graphics and images to break things up that like call attention so that we make it scrollable, because most people are not going to read the whole page. And so we need to let them, if they're scrolling through, get those really key 5 to 7 points that sell the investment opportunity. Make sure those are like unmissable on the page. Beyond that, the structure of the page can often match the structure of the video, and those are not ever, at least for us, typically not templated. Where there's this, we always want similar components within a pitch. What I mentioned before, the problem, the solution, the market size, the team, why now, but we reorganize based on what's most interesting and like in what order people need to absorb some information. Sometimes we can just start with the product because people know what the problem is already. It's just very obvious. Sometimes we need a lot of explanation of what the problem is for you to understand the solution. I know, like, if you're doing a self-hosted raise and companies have a landing page, we learned it from some of those raises where you are constantly testing, moving the sections around on the page to see which ones convert higher. And it's never the same. It's always changing. And so we kind of think about that on the investment page as well, where you don't have that ability to do that testing on like a start engine or WeFunder. We try and just structure it in what's going to be most uniquely powerful for that company.
Last question for you, for folks who are kind of, interested, thinking about doing a raise, maybe they've already kind of selected the platform they're going to work with and they're pretty much ready to go. If they're interested in working with your firm, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to rallyonmedia.com or rallyonmedia.com/equity-crowdfunding, there's a contact form there. If you fill that out, it'll come right to me and I'll probably follow up right away. I think, as we said earlier, and the best time to reach out is, once you've decided you're all in on this, you're going to do it, reach out to us and we can help you create your pitch and tell your story.
Awesome. Alex, thank you so much for your time and insights. And like I already mentioned, I think this is a great firm. If you're looking to get up and running with the campaign and you need your video, you're thinking through your offering page, definitely the folks to be chatting with. Thank you again for your time, and thank you to everyone for listening. Have a wonderful day.